Hello everyone and welcome along to the latest episode of the Turfcast podcast pre-game show with me, Joe Redmond, ahead of this weekend's game with Leicester City at Turf Moor, which takes place on Saturday at 3 p.m. So life without Chris Wood starts against one of Chris Wood's former teams in Leicester City, of course. He's already scored for Leicester City at Turf Moor, so we have seen him score at Turf Moor. Fingers crossed. For an opposition team, that is, of course. And fingers crossed we don't have to witness that on the last day of the season, because if we aren't already relegated by then, and that at the minute looks like a big if, then that will be a very, very, very bitter pill to swallow. But, you know, I've had my say on the Chris Wood thing. I've put a video up on it on the channel. I've had my say. He's gone now, so there's no point dwelling on it, really. Like I said, I've had my say. I think we'll miss him. But you know, I've seen the stats that he is the most expensive 30-plus Premier League signing in the history of the league. And that has made me feel a little bit better about it, if I'm being honest. It just shows that we have got a good deal for him. But at the same time, it is possible to have a good deal for somebody and at the same time miss him. And I think that is exactly what's going to be the case. I think he will do well at Newcastle, as I've already said. But we need to move on. It's time to watch Jay Rodriguez and Vidra, maybe up top. Jay Rodriguez on his own, maybe Jay Rodriguez and Ashley Barnes, or maybe Ashley Barnes up top on his own. I think, honestly, I'll obviously support the lads, but, you know, Ashley Barnes up top on his own. I think it will just be the same old that we've witnessed so far this season, which is nothing against Ashley, because, of course, he's not really been playing much this season, but I think we need to go in a different direction now. I was on Sky Sports News. I don't know if you saw it, but that's exactly what I said when I was on Sky Sports News. I said we need to go in a different direction now. We need to use this money to buy more players of the attacking, free-flowing sort of football, wingers, you know, a potent striker, you know, with decent mobility, you know, because that's something that Woody wasn't exactly blessed with. It turned like a submarine sometimes, but, you know, we need to get. I know it's easy to say get more players like Cornet, and I know it's difficult to find players like that, but just get more players of that sort of nature, not necessarily that caliber, because of course it's going to be very difficult, but attacking players. And fingers crossed, you know, some of the defending could be a bit better in this game, because that's left a lot to be desired recently as well. It's not just been Chris Wood that's been poor. It's not just been the midfield that's been poor. The defence has been poor as well. So hopefully the lads have got their heads on, but in adversity, you know, I think Burnley are at their most dangerous sometimes when their back is against the wall. And I think their back is firmly against the wall now. And I think I said on Twitter in a reply to Burnley Express journalist Chris Borden, sort of like saying, we are at our best when our back's against the wall. You know, if we face adversity head on, you know, sometimes I think we could use this as like a boost. I think we are going to miss one out. I didn't want him to leave, but we can use this sort of like negativity as a boost. I think maybe Dyche can now use it as like a motivational thing. So I'll say, look, everyone's writing you off. You need to go out there and prove to people that you are still good enough to be in this league. And who knows, that might fire the players up. But it's a big one this weekend. I felt that this could have been 2 games where we could have turned our season around. But I do think it is a bit of a hammer blow now that we've sold one of our key players, and obviously not been enough time to bring somebody in time for this match. And of course, at the time of recording this, we haven't. There's been rumours about Fofana at Lens, I think he is, in France, but that's already been rejected as far as I'm aware. So I doubt we'll have a new player in by the time, you know, this is out. I'm recording this on Thursday, so it is, 99.99% unlikely that there's going to be a new player there on Saturday. But fingers crossed, obviously, we're still going to support the lads. We're still going to get behind the lads. We're still going to make loads of noise. I think now is a time when we need to do that as a fan base. We need to proper support them now. We need to proper make some noise. You know, the turf's been quiet for the last 6 months. Not had much to shout about, in fairness. But I think now it's time for us to try and G up the lads rather than the lads G'ing us up. So everyone that's going on the game on Saturday, please take that mindset on. And fingers crossed we can turn the season around, because we turned the season around a couple of seasons ago against Leicester, didn't we? When Nick Pope saved that penalty and went on to win a game 2-1 when Leicester were already 1-0 up. So fingers crossed we can do it again. And then, of course, Watford on Tuesday, which is pretty much instantaneously after that game. So I'm not sure if I'll be able to get a pre-game show out for that one. But keep your eyes peeled on the socials anyway. I'll try and do a post-match reaction for this, a 60-second roundup on the YouTube channel. But yeah, let's get into it then. I am joined by Leicester City fan Jack. Apologies if I got that wrong. I think it is Jack. And he's from Leicester City Fan TV. Right, and just like that, as promised, joining us now from Leicester City Fan TV is Jack. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, thank you. I'm all right, thank you. So, of course, you were supposed to be playing this Tuesday, or was it Wednesday? You were meant to play in this midweek, weren't you, against Everton? But you only had 8 fit players, so the game was called off due to COVID injuries, and I think as well some players away at AFCON. What's the current situation? Are you looking like you've got players back, or is it looking like the game's going to be called off?
The game's on.
Happy
Shoes back for Leicester, Patson Dako. James Justin makes a return after a long absence with an injury. After getting injured against Brighton in the FA Cup last season. Others, obviously, Babakary Samore will not feature at all. Luke Thomas will be back. Kane and Dewsbury Hall. So they're 2 key players as well in the defensive side of it. Obviously, Dewsbury Hall is in the centre attacking midfielder, so that's good. You obviously have to have 13 fit players, don't you, to play a game?
Yeah.
So we've got all the key players back. Obviously, Fofana will be still out for this one. Jamie Vardy's out. Ricardo's out. Johnny Evans is out. So
yeah. So then you mentioned key players, but that's still a long list of injuries, isn't it? Like, are you wanting the game to go ahead? Are you hoping someone else pulls up in training tomorrow? Or because honestly, as soon as we saw Chris Wood, I thought, right, it probably won't be the worst thing in the world if this Leicester game gets called off now. It gives us a chance to maybe bring somebody in. But then on the flip side of it, you could have some players back by then. So how are you feeling about this game? Do you want it to go ahead, or are you wanting it to be off?
I think you want every game to go ahead, don't you? You don't want to use that excuse of injuries or COVID or whatever they want to put it down to. At the end of the day, you don't want to land up in a situation where you got a lot of games to catch up on. You want to play your games really instead of having to wait 4 weeks until you have to play the game what's obviously postponed. Obviously, Everton's been postponed twice now, so we'll play them at some point. Obviously, Tottenham game's been rescheduled for next week. So you just want to play as many games as you can. You don't really want them to be called off. You know, put whoever on the pitch at the end of the day. Put the team bus on the goal if it means having a goalkeeper in goal. So,
yeah, fair enough. It's a good attitude to have that, because I think that's how most Burnley fans feel. But like I said, with the sale of Chris Wood, I suddenly thought, won't mind getting some new players in now. But are you a little worried that there might be, some rusty legs out there then? Because you mentioned all these players coming back. You mentioned Justin to me then and off air, and I think you said off air that it was March last year they got injured. So if he's thrown straight in the deep end, you would think that he might be a little bit rusty. So is there a bit of a worry from Leicester fans that you might be a little bit rusty?
I think James Justin, it's about getting back into the thick of things. He's played for the under-23s now against Chelsea. He played 45 minutes where he was trying out left back and right back. So obviously we're going to have to switch, aren't we, this season? If we get any more injuries. James Justin, obviously a fullback that he is, the Luton Cafu, they call him. It's going to take time to adapt again and get back up to speed. I think we've just got to ease him back in. I don't think he'll start. I think he'll be on the bench, but I think he'll get quite a few minutes against Burnley in that second half.
Yeah, talk to me about your season so far then, because from the outside looking in, I don't think you're doing as well as you would have hoped, but then there is obviously the injuries. So is it because of the injuries you're not doing so well? Because I've seen a few people, on the Leicester hashtag and some Leicester pages that I follow complaining about Brendan. So is it a mixture of things as well?
I think some of it's down to the tactics side of it, the set pieces. We've conceded more than anyone in the league from set pieces this season, zonal marking and that. Brendan Rodgers now has just found a way to adapt to it. He's gone back to basics in the last few games. He's not used zonal marking. I mean, we signed Vestergaard, we signed Bertrand. I mean, absolute crap if you ask a Leicester City fan.
I'm not a fan of Vestergaard. I never was.
We'll swap Vestergaard for James Tarkowski for Burnley if that's what you want to do.
You know what, mate? If we go down, which, I've had my say on that. I don't think you'll even need to swap him. I think you just come in and buy. His contract's up, mate, so you'll have him for free. But in Newcastle sniffing around, I think most people will be wanting to go there. But yeah, you mentioned tactics then. What's different then this season towards the last few seasons? Because you've done well under Brendan. Obviously you won the FA Cup last year and things like that. And, you've had decent positions in the league still. Obviously not quite the heady days of obviously when you won it and that. But, you've been doing well. So what's different this season?
It's been a tipsy-turvy season. I know Leicester fans, some of them would have wanted Brendan Rodgers out for the results that we've not been getting, that we should be getting. I mean, it's just absolute nonsense. But everyone's allowed an opinion Football's full of opinions. To say where we are in the league, how poor we started off, I would have took it at the end of the day. We've still got games in hand to play, so we're 9 points behind West Ham now with 2 games in hand. So if we win them 2 games in hand, starting with the Tottenham game and the Norwich game, then you've caught up, haven't you? Really? And then obviously we've got Everton's game in hand to come as well. The tactics this season haven't really been spot on. It's been frustrating watching Leicester, especially set piece wise. We seem to pass it around the back a lot. And when we do pass it around the back, we put ourselves under so much pressure. We're no Manchester City, know how to get out quicker. We've had to play Vestergaard at times, but, the defensive errors haven't just been Vestergaard's fault. They said Johnny Evans would change it when he came back with Cags. They was a great partnership last season, Cags and Evans. They thought it had all changed, that Vestergaard was the way out. But it's just been the same. Johnny Evans didn't really make a difference to the defence. It's not tightened it. Ricardo's came back. He got injured in that horrific tackle by Tyler Morton at Liverpool. That was his first game back, and now he's out for which looks the rest of the season, Ricardo. So the tactics this season, it's been very frustrating. Like I say, James Maddison's now turned up. Yuri Tillemans has been on some fine form. Harvey Barnes, he needs to live up to expectations a bit more. Run it to defenders. Lookman needs to add that to his game as he plays. If we can do that, we'll cause you guys problems on Saturday for sure.
Well, that's it. Even with all these key players missing, you've still got some decent players on the pitch, haven't you? You mentioned 2 there, 2 of my favourite Leicester players there, Maddison and Barnes. I was always a bit disappointed that we never got hold of Barnes. Obviously, I understand now why, because he's turned out to be very good, but he was born in Burnley. I won't call him a local lad at all, but his dad used to play for Burnley, and then his dad had the child while he was in Burnley, so he was born in Burnley. So I was always a bit disappointed. So talk to me about Harvey Barnes then, because I quite like Harvey Barnes. I think he's good, but you just said there you wanted to live up to expectations. Well, what more do you want from him?
Run it to defenders, run it to fullbacks. He did it quite a lot of times before he got injured. Since he's come back, I don't know, you want him to run and attack a lot, but I think it's the way Brendan plays, isn't it, that affects the players, the way they play at times. If Brendan wants you to play this one way that you don't want to play, then that's down to the manager, isn't it? It's not down to the player. Harvey, phenomenal player when he's on his day, can take on anybody, score some right cracking goals. But I think Harvey's getting back up to fitness again after that injury against Arsenal last season, which took him out for the rest of last season. Maddison, what can you say? When he's on his day, he's unplayable. He's had 8 goals this season, 6 assists. So he's done some phenomenal stuff. I think he's back to his best now. He's just been incredible to watch, the way he turns a player, the way he scores the goals. He's setting up the way he should. But Maddison's been down to the injuries as well, hasn't he, himself? Knee injuries and that. So it's about getting back to full fitness and getting that sharpness back. And I think Maddison has got that sharpness back. And I think he's that fully fit player and that confident player that we want to see at Leicester in James Maddison, because he's got the ability and now he's starting to show it again.
No worries that anyone might be sold on anything in this window?
I'd like to see Vestergaard go.
I bet you would. I bet you would.
You lot can have buy one, get one free. You can have them both if you want. Benkovic left for Udinese. He ended his contract yesterday, and he's gone to Udinese. We need some defenders, Leicester. We haven't really got many defenders to call upon. I think that's where we've got to strengthen this summer, January window. People say we haven't got an endless pot of money, but they're not really saying how much we've actually got to spend. But if it means loans, then that's the way forward, isn't it? As long as we get a few players in at Leicester this January window, then I'll be happy. But if we don't and we end up not signing anybody, then it's going to be the crucial part of our season, isn't it, going into the second half?
Yeah, so you mentioned then earlier on, you mentioned you're only what is it? Just looking at the league table now, 12 points behind West Ham, who are fourth, with a couple of games in, 3 games in hand on them actually at the minute. So yeah, if you win all of them, you do get really, on their tails. But what do you think you can actually achieve this season then? Is catching West Ham, it sounds to me like that's probably a little bit too much. I don't think West Ham will finish 4th for what it's worth. I think they'll end up finishing 5th or 6th. But what are you hoping to achieve? Maybe sneak into the top 7, top 6, or are you looking over your shoulder a little bit?
I think this season, looking at the start of the season, expectations were a top 6 finish. We'll win the Europa League, weren't we? A group that Leicester and Napoli would have said they'd have won one of them teams. Obviously, that wasn't the case. Spartak Moscow won the group. Who would have thought that at the start? Yeah. Napoli finished 2nd. Leicester finished 3rd, and Leicester's in the Europa Conference League. It's a trophy that people think is not really relevant in Europe. Obviously, Spurs didn't really take it seriously, but you've got to take every competition seriously. I think Leicester will. It'd be a trophy that you want to win, really, wouldn't you? If you're in it, you've got to win it. Now looking at into the squad with the injuries and that, you'd want a top 6 finish. Man United ain't consistent, and neither Spurs. So they're 2 teams you really want to look at getting past this season. Arsenal, they had a good run, but now they're on a bit of a slump again. How long that's going to last, I'm not sure. West Ham, they've not really got a strength in depth, have they? We didn't have that last season, and we ended up getting injuries and that end slipping out the Champions League places. Will that happen to West Ham this season? Because they seem to be playing that first team quite regularly in the European places, Premier League competition. You can't play your same players week in, week out, because it's going to end up having these serious injuries, and that's something that West Ham will want to avoid.
Yeah, that's what I was when I said I think West Ham will drop out of it. I think that's exactly why. I think all the other big 6, they've got strength in depth, whereas West Ham don't. I think, like I said, West Ham will probably end up finishing 6th with maybe Man United 7th, something like that. And I think you boys will do very well to crack into it now. But with some of the players coming back, I don't see why you shouldn't be ambitious. But I like it how you just said there, you want to win every competition you're in. Do you think you'll go for this Conference League thing? Because I remember when you originally fell into it, Rodgers said that comment, didn't he, where he said something like, I don't even know what the competition is, or I think he said something like that, didn't he? So do you think the gaffer and the players will take it seriously?
I don't think any manager knew what it was. It's a new competition, isn't it? It's a competition where teams in the foreign leagues don't get Europe in it. You'd be lucky to make the Champions League and the Europa League. I think UEFA and that have given these teams who don't make Europe quite regularly to be given a chance in another competition, which is good to see. Leicester, you've got to be in it to win it. I'd like to go and win it this season. Now we're in it. Before it with the Europa League, I'd want to go and win. But this one, even in Europe competition, if we don't make top 6 this season, there's always something to fall back on, aren't there? If you go and win that competition, because you'll be in the Europa League next season. So we've got 2 chances, 2 bites at the cherry this season. Hopefully one of them come off, and we can actually go into them European spots again next season.
Yeah, so let's start looking at the game on Saturday then, of course, 3:00 at Turf Moor. You've mentioned some tactics and things like that and how you are weak on set pieces. Burnley, traditionally, are actually quite strong at set pieces, but one of the main parts of that was one of the players that we have just sold. So we probably have just become considerably weaker at set pieces, although having said that, Woody, of course, only scored, 3 goals so far this season, so he wasn't exactly firing on all cylinders. But are you worried about set pieces on this game, or are you a little bit more relaxed because Burnley haven't really been as good at set pieces this season?
You can't overlook Burnley. I say this about all the teams in the Premier League. You can't overlook anybody, no matter how poor they are on form or anything like that. You've got to take every game seriously and respect the opposition. If you sit there and underestimate the opposition, things go terribly wrong. Leicester have done that on numerous of the times. We've got to take this game seriously. The Premier League's a difficult league. Anybody can beat anybody in this division. Burnley are obviously where they are due to poor form. They've not really lived up to expectations this season. They'll obviously be one of the favourites to go down to the Championship. Obviously, selling Chris Wood, now Newcastle are holding the Wood. Obviously, they put that on Twitter, didn't they, earlier today, Newcastle, holding Wood. Just not that sort of Wood, I hope, Newcastle. Chris Wood, we know him well at his time at Leicester, scored some very good goals. I mean, I remember his debut for Leicester against Huddersfield. He scored a hat-trick. Chris Wood is a phenomenal, tall, strong sort of player. If you get it on his head, he scores 9 times out of 10. But Burnley play one way, don't they? That up to the big striker and that's it. I mean, now you've got Maxwel Cornet. He's a phenomenal player. I'd have him at Leicester. I hear that £20 million if you guys get relegated, his contract clause. So I'd take him at Leicester.
I'm not sure. I've heard some rumours over the last couple of days because of this release clause on Chris Wood's contract, but I'm not sure if that's true or what. But I have seen the same sort of things.
I mean, you said just before the show that he's at the AFCON. Maxwel Cornet. Chris Wood's obviously gone. So what are you left with? Vidra, Rodriguez, and Ashley Barnes?
It's probably going to be... Barnes has been a bit injured. I don't know if he's still injured. Vidra, I've never really rated him. That's another polarising opinion between Burnley fans. I think he's championship quality at best. And I think all 3 of our strikers are now championship quality at best. I think now we've sold Chris Wood, I think we really are up shit creek without a paddle. I put a video up yesterday giving my thoughts on the Chris Wood deal. If you are watching this on YouTube now, you can see something in the top right-hand corner, pointed the wrong way, that way. And it will come up now if you want to watch that. We'll come back to this video. I think I will lead with Chris Wood at AFCON and Chris Wood sold. Our current leading Premier League goal scorer is none other than Ben Mee. That's how poor the strikers have been this season. So goals are going to have to come from set pieces and set pieces only, or Vidra and Jay Rodriguez or whoever plays up top are just going to have to suddenly find some form from somewhere. But there's been no signs of that whatsoever. So I'm going into this game pretty much with my head in the sand, kind of just pretending the game isn't on. But I'll be there, but just like that, watching it. I'm just not looking forward to it at all.
I think it's going to be one of them games, watching through your fingers. I mean, I know what Leicester are like against teams who's at the bottom. We seem to make it very difficult for ourselves. I mean, we've got the injuries back now, like James Justin and that. We've got a squad together who can actually play, so Liverpool can't go crying now and saying Leicester get all these games postponed because they had their games postponed. So they're as bad as we are, should we call it. I mean, every team's been at Leicester through social media this week after the Everton game got called off. But it's all right when other teams are getting their games called off, especially the top 6 sides.
It makes top 6 fans make me laugh. Top 6 fans make me laugh. Like, I've give stick to every team that's had a game called off because of the amount of times that someone's... It wouldn't bother me if teams had games called off because of COVID. If you had an X amount of COVID cases and the Premier League were like, right, you need X amount of COVID cases or X amount of players left due to COVID cases, and that was the rule, I'd be like, fine. But then teams started bending the rules and saying, oh, well, we've got injuries as well as that, so we don't have... That shouldn't be in the rule. I don't blame Leicester for doing it. Yeah, I don't... Exactly. The AFCON thing for me got me when you started that. But I don't blame Leicester for doing it. Like, I'm not criticising Leicester for it. I'm criticising the rules of the Premier League. They should be better. They should be like... Of course you're going to use it in your favour. I wish Burnley did, to be honest. I wish Burnley used it in our favour because we're going to now play you without Maxwel Cornet and without Chris Wood. So we could have done what Newcastle did and got 3 games postponed before we signed somebody like they did, before the FA Cup last weekend. Oh, they still lost to Cambridge, but still. But the Premier League needs to do better rules, to be honest. But yeah, I did put something up myself, but I weren't criticising Leicester. It was more a case of criticising the Premier League because it's just been an absolute farce from the Premier League, but not from the clubs. The clubs are obviously going to use it in their favour. Of course they are.
I think it's, I don't know, your defence, isn't it? Look at Tarkowski. Does he really want to be at Burnley? I mean, he tried forcing a move at
obviously
Brentford,
doesn't. He obviously doesn't. I mean, fair play to Tarkowski. He hasn't down tools in the sense that he did at Brentford, because at Brentford he just turned around and said, lad, I want to go, let me go. At least he's still playing for Burnley, but you can just tell by his performances, he's heading in it. He's heading in it. Like, I would have rather sold Tarky than Chris Wood, 100%. I would rather have sold Tarky because we had a ready-made replacement in Nathan Collins to step in. Now we've sold Chris Wood, we've got nobody to step in. Like we've just been talking about, we've got Jay and Vidra to step in probably, and they're not good enough, man. Like, I love Jay to bits. He's a Burnley legend, but I think he's past it. But hopefully, he proves me wrong. Like Burnley are at their best when their back's against the wall and people are writing us off. So fingers crossed, Dyche can use this as motivation and say, look, everyone's written you off now. Use it, go out there and just get in their faces, turn it into an absolute battle, bring them down to your level. And I think if we do that, who knows, we might nick it 1-0 off a set piece. But if we let you boys play, I think we'll get beat.
Yeah, it's not been the season that Burnley fans would have hoped for. I mean, Burnley have been down near the bottom for the last few seasons, haven't they? After leaving the Europa League playoffs.
Yeah, the Europa League season, we ended up finishing, I think, 17th or 16th that season. Then the season after, we finished 10th again, but then it was 17th again, and it's been that ever since.
It's been a downward spiral for Burnley. Now you've lost Chris Wood and now Maxwel Cornet to the AFCON. It's going to be very difficult because I think Cornet's been your best player this season by far. Phenomenal. Came 100%. In, scored that free kick against Leeds, scored against Leicester, and then he got injured.
Yeah, we went on the hook, didn't we?
Yeah, you did.
I was fuming.
I met him after the game, Maxwel Cornet. I had a good chat with him. I said, you know what, Maxwell? I said, we'll have you at Leicester next season. I said, we need a winger. I said, we ain't placed Mahrez. But that's hopefully he
weren't listening. Then hopefully he had his headphones in and he weren't listening. But
no, he actually had them out. So he listened to everything I said.
But yeah, his class is Maxwell. I'll give you that. He's fantastic. There's been a lot of talk this week about Chris Wood being our best player. We've lost our best player. Chris Wood, our best striker. Yeah, but he's not our best player. He won Player of the Year last year, in all fairness. But now Cornet has come in. He is not our best player. But focusing on the game again, how are we expecting you to set up now then? Because you've spoken about tactics a couple of times. How do you think Brendan's going to approach this one?
Well, we've got Ndidi at the AFCON, Ian Nacho at the AFCON, Daniel Amati at the AFCON. Vardy's out, Johnny Evans is out. Fofana's not back yet. So looking at Leicester from the in, I think Schmeichel's going to start. Castagna, if fit, he'll start at right back. Luke Thomas left back. Centre backs, Sionchu, maybe Hamza Chowdhury after his performance against Watford. Midfield, James Maddison, Yuri Tillemans, KDH. And then we'll obviously have Maddison, Barnes, and I think Lutman.
Interesting. You got to see what I mean. Like, even with all the injuries, there's still some players there that I'm like, I wish he were out. Oh, for God's sake, I wish he were.
We're very good attacking. We are. We're very good attacking side. It's just a defensive side to Leicester. What lets us down. That's why we concede so many goals.
Yeah, well, we don't score goals, thankfully for you. So there's not. If we had a threat, then I'd be like, oh, we could be able to pick these apart. And the threat is for us set pieces. But again, we haven't been as good this season. We've only scored, I think it's 16 goals all season. Goals for, just scrolling down now. Yeah, we've only scored 16 goals all season, which, to be fair, isn't even the worst. Norwich have only scored 8. That is absolutely ridiculous. But less than Norwich because obviously they're gone. But I think obviously we're going to have to capitalise on set pieces. Losing Chris Wood is a blow on set pieces, of course he is. But Tark is still there. Ben Mee's still there. He's now the leading Premier League goal scorer at the club while Cornet's away. But it's one of them. I do think you'll cause us problems, and I think you'll score goals against us. I'll give my prediction in a minute. I'll let you give yours first. What prediction do you think it's going to be? How do you think the game's going to pan out?
I mean, I'm not going to underestimate Burnley at all. I mean, you don't know what's around the corner in football. Looking at Burnley's form, it means nothing in any game, really. I mean, you guys haven't made Turf Moor the fortress that you did before. It's always been tricky going to Turf Moor as a Leicester fan. Last season, Ian Nacho scored. I think it was 1-1, wasn't it? Vidra scored from that Hamza Chowdhury mistake.
I can't remember.
It's going to be a difficult one. I mean, you've not got Chris Wood, who loves a goal against the Foxes. I think the only threat you guys are really going to cause us is from set pieces with Tarky and Ben Mee. I mean, Ben Mee, another former Fox. I remember his debut against Millwall, gave away 2 penalties. If we can attack you guys on Saturday and throw the kitchen sink at you lot, I think you'll crumble. If Lutman can attack and Barnes run at your fullbacks. Who is your fullbacks at Burnley, by the way?
Charlie Taylor and Matty Lawton. Charlie Taylor's class. He's been sensational this season. Lawton's been very good this season as well, but the last couple of games, probably not even a couple of games, last game and a half, he's not been very good. But he's good, is Lawton. And he's another player that I think divides opinion. But Charlie Taylor, he's class. I love Charlie Taylor. He's brilliant.
I think if we can win that midfield battle as well, obviously KDH.
Which you will do. Honestly, the midfield is our worst part. Like, the midfield just doesn't exist. It just
Westwood
doesn't
and
exist.
Brownhill, is it?
Westwood and Cork at the minute. It might be Brownhill. It might be all three. Or who knows? He might play Jay up top on his own and go all three. That we've lost the midfield battle in every. That's been the part of the story of our season, should I say? It's funny you mentioned that. I'll go into that. Like, the first game of the season, we went 1-0 up against Brighton. This really set the tone for the season. We went 1-0 up against Brighton. We hit the post, and I think we hit the bar as well, or someone flashed a shot just over or just wide. I can't remember. We could have easily been 3-0 up at half time. Potter sees that they're getting overrun in midfield. He brings Lallana on, so it goes 3 against 2 in the middle. They turn the game around and win 2-1. And then that really sets a tone. Then same happened at Everton. Same happened at Leeds recently. We just keep losing the midfield battle. So you've got some good midfield players, and that is a concern for me because you will comfortably win the midfield battle unless Dyche does something really different this week, which he might do because he's lost one of his key players.
Yeah, I think it'll be a tricky game. It's something that Leicester can't overlook. Burnley might be on poor form, but you still can't overlook them at the end of the day or underestimate them in any way. Because if you do that, you get a slap in the face. We've got to go to Strathmore for the win. It's as good as you get, really. We didn't get the 3 points which we wanted at the King Power this season in the reverse fixture. Landed up 2-2. Could have ended up 3-2 to you lot if Chris Wood's goal would have stood to VAR.
Close, sorry.
I think if we can win that midfield battle and Barnes and Luckman can do their job and run it the fullbacks and that, we can cause problems and score goals. Maddison's on form. Tillemans, you've got to watch him from distance because he can strike a ball. I mean, Nick Pope takes up the goal, doesn't he? How tall he is. You've got to get him in the court, right in the corners for him. I think I'm going to go 2-0 Leicester in this one.
Interesting, because I was going to go 2-0 Leicester as well. I'm going to stick by it. I'm going to go 2-0 Leicester. Honestly, you'll have never heard me predicting against Burnley this time 3 months ago. But just with the way that things have gone in the last 3 months, throwing games away, players not interested, players not turning up, Dyche being stubborn, now it's players being sold, and then nobody coming in, Maxwell away at AFCON, I just can't see. There's nothing to suggest for me off our recent performances and stuff that's recently happened at the club that we can go on and win this game. And I don't want to become one of these negative Burnley fans who's always going, we'll get beat, we're crap. But that's just the situation that we're in at the minute. I just cannot see us winning this game, which is unusual because even before the Chris Wood thing, I might have been a little bit indifferent and gone, we might nick it 1-0 because this really is a game that if Burnley won the match, nobody would look at the game and like, Burnley have won. Burnley beat Leicester. It's just, Burnley beat Leicester. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that we beat you. But we've got 2 winnable games coming up. We've got you and then Watford at home on Tuesday. And if we hadn't sold, it's just such the worst time to sell Chris Wood. Why sell him before these 2 massive games? But I think that's another sign to the players that maybe, we're not accepting relegation, but, it's a kick in the teeth to them. And Dyche will have to do something different for us to win this game. If he does the same things we've done for the last 4 or 5 games, we will definitely get beat. It might go 4-5-1, but 4-5-1 rarely works. It could go 4-3-3, but we don't have the players to do it with Cornet away and Wood sold. So I'm just going to predict Dyche will go 4-4-2. He'll put Jay and Vidra up top, and it'll be exactly the same problems that we've had all season, and you'll win the game comfortably. But yeah, I agree with you. 2-0 Leicester.
So, I just hate it when fans go against their own team because you look at it and you think, oh dear.
Yeah,
there were a Leeds fan last season who said the same thing. Leeds are going to get battered against Leicester, or we're poor with this, that, and the other, and then they ended up beating us at King Power. I thought, oh my god.
Well, last season I think we beat you 2-1 at the Turf, didn't you? Not last season, sorry, the season before.
Yeah, did Harvey Barnes score and then Ashley Westwood scored?
Yeah, you went 1-0 up. And then Barnes scored, Ashley Barnes. Then Jamie Vardy had a penalty. And I always see...
And he missed.
Pope saved it. I always see that exact moment. Because that moment turned that game around. It swung it in our favour. And that win turned our season around. So that exact save turned our season around. So fingers crossed we can do it against Leicester again. But I'm not too confident. But anyway, thank you for coming on. It's been a good chat.
Pleasure.
We've hit half an hour, mate. It's always a good sign if I get past 20 minutes, mate. So you're obviously a good talker.
That's good.
Thank you for coming on. Do you just want to give your podcast and YouTube channel and all that a plug so people know where to find you?
Guys, go and check out Leicester Fan TV. We're a bunch of lads who love Leicester City. If you're a neutral and you love football, go and check out all our content, from watch-alongs to previewing games, away fan chat shows. You name it, Leicester Fan TV, do it. Go and follow us at Leicester Fan TV on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat, Facebook, wherever you can find us at Leicester Fan TV. Go and do so. Go and subscribe to us on YouTube. We're nearly at 9K, so go and push that subscribe button if you're a neutral and love all football videos. It'd be great. And it's been a great chat. Thank you for having me on, and good luck after Saturday.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. It must be nice being near 9K. I'm on 620. But it is just me, mainly. It is just me. It was a few lads last season, but it is just me this season. So, can only do so much. But thanks for coming on anyway, mate. Like I said, it's been a very, very good chat.
Pleasure.
Same as you. Good luck for the rest of the season, but after Saturday, of course.